Well, hello and welcome to the Building Podcast. Now, construction is a people industry, reliant on people working for people to deliver projects, funnily enough, for people. Our sector accounts for around 8% of GDP and so requires an awful lot of people. Today, we're looking at the new generation coming into our sector and trying to understand how their aspirations and goals are changing our industry. I'm really delighted to welcome Rylie Sweeney, a management trainee at Willmott Dixon, to the podcast today. Rylie is the top 100 influencer in the UK and also the Rising Star Award, recipient of the Rising Star Award for the NFB. I'm really looking forward to exploring this topic with Rylie, who can help us understand the journey that the industry is going to have to go through to change themselves to make it more attractive to young people coming into the sector. Rylie, welcome to the Building Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Really looking forward to today's conversation. So Rylie, we normally start by giving you a chance of sort of telling you a little bit about yourself, what your role is within the company, and we'll perhaps sort of add to that how you sort of came into the company and what attracted you to construction.
Yes, so I'm Rylie Sweeney. I'm a management trainee at Willmott Dixon. I joined 3 years ago. I started on an apprenticeship programme and recently transitioned over to the management trainee programme in August. So I'm fairly new to the management trainee role. And I'm really passionate about kind of influencing young people into the industry. So I do lots of work with organisations to really kind of promote the industry, because I've been really passionate about the STEM industry since school. I always knew that the traditional classroom setting just wasn't for me. I was eager to really get out to the real world, and I jumped at the chance to do work experience in year 10 and 11, and these placements really did give me a glimpse into construction, and I really loved that hands-on problem solving side of it. And during my last work experience, it was actually with Willmott Dixon in year 11. And I think everything just clicked. I loved the environment, I loved the projects, I loved everything really about construction, and I knew that's where I wanted to be. So that's when I applied to the management trainee program, and I haven't looked back since.
And here we are. Brilliant. And Rylie, those year 11 placements, I think placements in the sector are a really important part of all industry, bringing young people in.
Yes.
How did they structure those placements? How do they get best value or give you the best experience possible?
Yeah, so absolutely. I think for me, I got to experience a wide range of different opportunities. I was actually lucky to take part in 13 work experience programs, which is unheard of for a lot of young people. So I got some really good experiences, and unfortunately, I also had some really bad experiences. And I would say my best work experience is always been one that was well thought out. And work experience starts before the young person comes through the door. It starts a lot before that planning and understanding actually what do we want to show these young people, what do we want to give them value around the construction industry. And you can always tell as a young person going into a company if they have thought about that structure and if they're prepared and really ready to immerse you within the industry. And I think it's the hands-on as well. Like I always say that some of my work experiences were death by PowerPoint, and that's really not engaging for young people. So it is that hands-on like immersive experience that really stands out for young people, and it stood out for me massively.
So talk about those hands-on experience then, so Rylie. What were you what the sort of things they got you doing?
So I think my favourite work experience was one that was actually a collaboration between four different construction companies. I think Willmott Dixon, Waits, Balfour Beatty, Amy. So there was like four different big companies, and through that over the week we got to experience a different about the different employers at each, the different construction projects, and then we were actually given a project. So we were given an example of an actual project that was happening, and we kind of had like a budget. We kind of had to do like a little rough design. We had to think about the sustainability, the social value side, and we really kind of got like a mini construction project, and I really loved that. And that really got me experience in the different roles within the industry. And I think that's really important to allow young people to explore the different roles, because I think it's quite often young people don't realise what these roles actually do. So I think it is that like real life problem solving project that is presented and supported by different companies, employers.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a really interesting point for me, is that I've been in the industry for 30 plus years, and you come in as an engineer or as a surveyor, or as a particular trade, but you're talking about getting experience there, which is a very broad level of experience. Cost control, design, project management, sustainability. Is that important for people coming in to see that?
Absolutely. I think young people don't know what they don't know. And I think there's a lot of stereotypes and stigmas still around the industry that young people don't actually realise the breadth of opportunity within the industry. And there's actually so much out there for young people. And I think it's really important that companies allow young people to explore that. Even on my management trainee program now, and I'm actually a full-time apprentice, I'm still exploring different kind of avenues and different roles. I do like 6 weeks in design, 6 weeks in commercial, 6 weeks in project management and planning. And that's been really useful for me, because I think I came in with the idea that I just wanted to do site management. And actually, there's been lots of different opportunities, and I've seen a wide range of opportunities that I know that there's endless possibilities out there, and I don't just have to stick to that one. So I think allowing young people to really explore and understand what different roles are is key.
Hmm. And you've been allowed to ask all the questions which I'm not allowed to ask. So the silly questions of why on earth are we doing it that way, or
Yes.
talk to me where the value is in doing this.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. And Riley, you're as a young woman coming into the industry, have you found any differentiation between a young woman and a young man coming in, or?
Yes, I think for me, I've always been passionate about promoting opportunities within the industry. So I took part in a few social media campaigns, and I really kind of was pushing out my story and my journey. And it did come with a lot of backlash, and I did get kind of a lot of comments and a lot of kind of stereotypes thrown at me. And I think it wasn't just because I was a woman. I think it was actually as well my role being a young person in management. A lot of people don't really see how a young person can be in management so young. So I think it was two avenues really. I really got kind of a lot of hate for being a woman in the industry, but then also kind of being a young person within the management system.
And that, I mean, I'm very disappointed to hear about the hate. Is that coming through social media, or is that coming through, how do you experience that?
Yeah, so a lot of it is through social media, and I think I've been very lucky that in person I've always been super supportive, and I've never had a comment to my face, but it definitely comes through social media and the masses.
Mm. And how do you personally deal with that? Is that, I mean, is that I mean, it's a terrible thing to have to experience. I mean, how do you cope with that sort of, that ill will?
Yeah, I think at the beginning it was a big shock to the system. It was a big kind of surprise. I was told that the industry had kind of moved on and we weren't in that position anymore. And it was quite clear that I was in my first year within the industry. I was 16 at the time, and to get all of this hate, it was really overwhelming. And I think I've only recently just been able to really kind of overcome that and not let it affect me. And I think what really helped is having other strong women within the industry and male
Okay.
allies as well, and kind of leaning on them and being able to go to them when I am struggling so they can kind
Mhm.
of support me.
Oh, I'm very pleased to hear that. I mean, I think it's a terrible thing, and we have to try and call it for what it is. And
Yeah,
I am a firm believer that the industry has moved on an enormous length distance
yeah,
since I started, but we weren't prone to social media, and I think that is it's
yes,
an anonymous outlet which nobody ever used to have, and I think
yes.
it's a terrible thing. let's move on from that. I mean, I think people will be shocked to hear that that's your, a 16-year-old is prone to that. But I'm really pleased you've got your supporters and your
Yeah.
allies that are pushing you and promoting you. I mean, how you've seen a broad section of the industry from your training that you've had so far. How do we nurture young people in the industry and make sure they stay? Because quite often we get, the fallout, certainly in apprenticeships, can be quite high. Be interested to know how you think we ought to be addressing that better to keep people in the industry.
Yeah, so I think nurturing young people in the construction industry is really keeping them like engaged. And I think it's crucial to show the young people why their work matters. It's not just turning up and doing your bit, it's actually real impact and showing them that impact, whether it may be the environment, local communities, people's lives. It's giving them a real sense of pride and purpose, I would say, and really showing
Mm,
them the impact of the wider work that they do. And I think equally important is mentorship, and it's not just around the technical skills. Mentors play a vital role in building the confidence of young people, helping them make the key decisions when they transition, and guiding them through that problem solving stage of
mm,
when you initially come into the industry. And giving them the opportunities, like I've said, to explore the different roles.
mm.
We've already briefly spoke on that, but I think that does truly open their eyes to the career paths available, and it can excite them about the future and show
Yeah.
them what's possible. And I think giving young people a voice, encouraging them to share ideas, contribute to decisions, and to like put real input into the challenges that we're facing in the industry. It allows them to feel connected and a sense of inclusion and influence. And I think that's what really helped me when I joined. I was empowered and supported to really kind of engage and make key decisions across site, and that gave me a sense of purpose and that I really belonged within the team, and that was
Yeah.
important to me.
Brilliant. You talked briefly there about mentors. I mean, you're at what level is your mentor at? Are they, top of the company? Are they immediately above you? Where do you think the best mentors fit in?
I think it's actually a mix of both. And I think when I joined the industry, I had a buddy and a mentor.
Right.
And a buddy was someone that had kind of just gone through the construction like program. So this is someone who's fairly new into the industry still, someone who might have been there 2 or 3 years longer than you have. And they really kind of helped with the informal support and really kind of finding your balance within the industry and kind of giving you that the informal support. But actually I think mentors play a key role of being a little bit higher up in the industry, and maybe as a senior manager or someone who's in your position but one or two kind of ranks up. And I think they can really bring the perspective of guidance of where you're heading, and they can see the types of things that you need to be developing, and they can support you to get to that point. So I think both ends of kind of the spectrum are really important, of having someone a bit low level, but then equally having a mentor that's a little bit more informal, that's further up in the company.
Brilliant. And do you find yourself doing reverse mentorship for those slightly more senior managers?
Yes, um I think it's interesting. I think it's actually really good that we can learn from each other. And I think the fact that, like, especially for me, my mentor's really open to kind of listening to my ideas and my thoughts, and they can take a lot away from that. And equally, I'm taking a lot away from their guidance. So I think mentorship's definitely a two-way thing. And new people in the industry, I think you can be quite observant when you first join, where when you've been there a while, I think you kind of things take over, you get busy, you don't realize really problems that might be arising. And I think new people into companies and young people can actually be more observant and kind of highlight these problems and really have that two-way support.
Yeah, now I'm a governor of a construction college, and I love the challenge. Well, I dread the challenges in some respect, but you get asked some very penetrating questions that
Yes.
you think, well, absolutely, they've got a different perspective on life and so how that's going through. I I suppose the other thing that I'm interested in, I was did a podcast with an architect who was sort of explaining how much the industry had changed over his lifetime, and that the vast number of skills are now needed to run a project from design right the way through to delivery. Um, Do you feel you've got enough? There's enough expertise in the industry to answer some of the challenges you're putting to it. I mean, we've seen the growth of sustainability and carbon accounting, and these are still very new skills that we're trying to acquire with the industry. Do you think we've got enough expertise or enough focus on these areas which are becoming more important, certainly to your generation, than they ever were to mine?
Yes, I think the construction industry it was very reliant on people, and you said that at the beginning.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think um, it's a people industry, and we rely on each other to collaborate to pull projects off and really support each other. It's not kind of an individual achievement. It's a team and a company achievement to kind of pull through projects. And I think that's the key thing is really understanding that we don't know as a person everything, but being open-minded to continue learning and continue working as a team is really important. And I think we've seen a lots of revolutions over the last few years, and even something that I've kind of been looking at over the last few years, just joining the industry, is the Building Safety Act.
Mhm.
And that's something that's new to a lot of people within the industry, and kind of the new responsibilities and really understanding our responsibilities. And I
Yeah.
think um, a lot of young people and people within the industry just need to kind of be open-minded to the changes, and have that mindset that it's a constant learning, because it's fast-paced, and we have to be able to be open-minded to continuously learning. And I think as long as an industry we can be open to that, I think we'll do okay.
And do you think people are open to that? Do you think people are open-minded? I mean, we're known as an industry that looks backwards to solve tomorrow's problems because that's that it worked for us before, therefore it's bound to work for us again. Do you think we've got that open-mindedness and vision in the industry?
I think we've got a fresh wave of younger people within the industry who I do think have that mindset of kind of having that open-mindedness and that continuous learning. I think, however, some of the challenges come with the people who've been in the industry a long time, and I think nobody really likes change. And I think sometimes we can get kickback, and I know I've seen it firsthand of even just little changes on a construction project. Typically, the older generation don't like that change, and they can be quite resistant until they can see that it works. So I think if we continue to have that wave of the new generation, I think we'll see that, and we can bring the older generation along with us.
Oh, well, I'm very pleased to hear that. I mean, you talked briefly about some of the soft skills that required. Um, I mean, are you finding that the younger generation are bringing those soft skills? Because quite often they take quite a number of years to hone some of those soft skills. So you talk about influencing your senior generation, your senior peers there. Is that something you find easy, or is that a challenge?
I think I was quite lucky that in education, when I actually attended to technical college in year 10 and 11. So I was quite lucky to develop them key skills quite quickly. But this is something I'm really passionate about with kind of the careers education and skills education within schools, because I think we need to be preparing our young people with them skills to go into the industry, whatever industry that may be. It's not just construction, that actually the world's so fast paced and fast evolving that young people can't just prepare for one career anymore. They have to prepare for them key skills that will allow them to be successful in everything that they do. So I think there is a key part of kind of what plays in the education system of allowing young people to develop them skills. But then when young people come into the industry, it's really allowing them to collaborate, to be able to communicate effectively, and giving young people that chance to really develop them skills at the beginning of the career, because that is the foundations of a successful career, I think.
Oh, it
And
is. Yeah,
that's the key, that it's pointless,
yeah.
I think, putting the technical knowledge in without having them that's key core
Yeah.
skills that are transferable.
Yeah, no, it's a common challenge that the industry faces is getting the soft skills trained at the same speed as we train the harder technical skills.
Yes.
You talked briefly there about training in schools. I mean, do you think the industry does enough to get into schools to try and support or describe how the industry works and the skills that are needed?
I think there's still a lot of kind of stigmas and stereotypes from young people around actually what the construction industry is and the wide range of opportunities that within the construction industry. And I think I went to a school last year and I did mock interviews, and out of 13 students, none of them had considered apprenticeships and none of them had considered construction. And when I actually asked, but why haven't you considered construction? And there was very much messages of kind of, well, my teacher told me that's like an industry that's just for like bricklayers and people who have failed. And
Mm.
that narrative is crazy to me. There's
Yeah, yeah,
incredible opportunities within the industry
yeah,
that young people just aren't aware of, and the narrative from schools is still very negative towards the construction industry, unfortunately. And I think we do a great job of kind of trying to break that down, but there's definitely more to be done. There's definitely be more of like kind of a collective effort to really show young people the opportunities within the industry and show them the kind of the success that you can have within the industry. And a lot of it comes down to young people as well. I think when I was in school, I really appreciated the younger generation of construction workers coming in because I really
yeah,
related to them. So I think it's utilizing the right people within the industry to make that happen.
yeah. Now, I in a previous life, I used to run a construction company, and sending young apprentices in to go and talk about what they're doing. They would generally start off very, very worried and scared about going in, but they
Yes.
come back absolutely brimming with how, yeah, they've been treated and how much respect they've gained. And they grew as individuals enormously from the experience. And I'm thoroughly, I absolutely recognise what you're saying there.
Yes, absolutely.
So the other thing you touched on then was the changing careers that everybody's going to have going in the future. You know, it's no longer do we, or any of us, really entitled to a career for life in what we do. Are people much more relaxed about coming in and doing continuous education right the way through, and understanding that they're going to have to continually learn new skills throughout their careers? Is that widely understood? Because I'm not sure it's understood in my generation.
I think it's really, really difficult because I think actually young people are their like conceptions and kind of thoughts around career paths are different, I think, to the older generation. And I think generally young people are looking for that something that makes them happy, something that they're passionate about, and something that they can continuously learn. I think they don't just want to kind of come in and do the same thing day in and day out.
Mhm.
And one thing that we hear all the time when I go out into schools is young people don't want a career that'll take over their life. People want that flexibility. They want kind of that chance to still have that work-life balance. And I think that that's really changing across the new
Mhm.
generation of that what they're looking for in work is different. And I think included in that is actually the that continuous development. So I think the new generation are really open to that and they're willing to kind of have that continuous development and learning and learn new skills and meet new people. But I think it's something that as an industry that we do need to accept. I think we haven't really got there as of yet. And I think there is kind of some generations that do lag behind, but that is just because it has been the same for so long and we have kind of had that resistant to change. So I think over the next couple of years, I hope as an industry that we do get better at that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to ask a significant increase in productivity in our industry, which I think we're all responsible for generating, both young and old, because we do work very long hours in our industry, and partly
Yes.
because we haven't got enough people in the industry to cover for do all the things that require doing, and that's
Yeah.
that's that's a real challenge, I think, for the whole sector to try and reduce that down. Well, one of my concerns about recruiting is that it's really not to treat everybody in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So one of the sort of questions I might ask you is how do we make sure we don't generalize about young people? Because you know I hate generalizations about older people,
Yes.
and I also know to get the best out of my teams, I can't generalize about anybody because we're all individuals. But
Yeah.
at a sort of a high level, we've got to go out and recruit more people. How do we avoid gross generalizations and missing out on some of the the great opportunities that a diverse workforce coming into the sector can help us with?
Yeah, generational labels, I think like Gen Z and things like that, they can sometimes be helpful when spotting trends. I think they can often oversimplify things though, and I think everyone is unique, and it's more important to really understand individuals and their values and their goals and how they work, rather than relying on them stereotypes.
Mhm.
And I think that being said, the labels can be a starting point for a broader discussion about things like technology or cultural shifts, but I think we should never replace that effort to kind of truly connect with people as individuals, and we can focus on their strengths and collaboration, and we can truly build teams that thrive on diversity instead of kind of the labels that do divide us.
Mm. And one of the challenges we have, you talk around about the teams that we have in the industry. We're very good as an industry about having a fantastic team and then splitting it up and sending it in all different directions to go and do another job.
Yes.
Are you experiencing that as well, or is that too early in your career to have that experience?
Yeah, so I've been lucky enough to have experience of two different construction projects. And yeah, I find that you kind of get involved in a project, your team gets in a groove, you kind of really get to know each other, you really get to know how each other work, you can really rely on each other's strengths, you know what's going well, what's not going well. And then all of a sudden your project comes to an end and you find yourself with the new project team. And it's again building that relationships from the beginning and really understanding what's your role within this team and what's your strength and how can you help this team. And I think that's something as an industry that I think is crazy that we do start new every time. If we've got a kind of well-oiled machine, why are we kind of splitting it up? And
Yeah.
but then I do kind of understand that it's great to collaborate with new people, understand new perspectives, and I do understand both sides, but I do really think that when we've got something that's going so well, why do we need to split that up?
Yeah. Well, having run a business, I know the challenges there's all sorts of reasons why you have to move people around, and
Yes,
keeping people together is always an issue. Really is.
yes.
So, Riley, we've had a great canter through where you're up to and some of the challenge for younger people coming into the sector. Where are the great changes in our sector that you think you and your colleagues coming into the Willmott Dixon, what are the things you'd like to change? Um, where do you see the biggest changes happening? Perhaps put it that way.
Yes, so I think I'd love to change how people see the construction industry. I
Okay.
think it's often portrayed as that last resort career, and that although we have moved on, that is still the kind of views, especially in schools, and it's just not true. I think there's so much variety, and we're seeing so many new roles pop up that it's full of opportunity. We do need to get better at showing young people what is possible. Like I've experienced the stigmas myself. I was told construction wasn't for me. I was told that it wasn't an industry for girls. And I think that attitude does put people off, and it holds the industry back. And I think we do really need to start highlighting the success stories within the industry so that we can make it more inclusive. And I think that representation really matters. If young people see others like themselves thrive in the industry, the more likely to consider it. So I think that's one kind of thing that I'd like to see overall, but then actually kind of within the industry itself, I think we do really need to look at kind of the skills gap and how we can um, better support the skills within the industry and how we can what we need to do to kind of improve that skills gap. And we're seeing that nearly, well, over half of apprentices and young people within the industry leave within the first six
Yeah.
months. That is crazy. That is something that we need to address. And I don't think many companies and many people actually realize that's the realities of the statistics, that we're losing half of our young people within the first 6 months. So I think that's something that we do really need to look and change and address. So I think, yeah, I think that's my kind of two areas that I think we really need to look at tackling.
Brilliant. I mean, I'm, yeah, as I say, I'm in a governor of construction college, and we have student governors. Do you see a role for putting young people in that sort of overseeing role in some of our companies, to have sort of employee governor, directors or senior managers on forums to help inform and direct the businesses that we're working within?
Yeah, I advocate for kind of allowing young people to have a voice and kind of allow them to be involved in the key conversations, because young people, especially, I always say a 16-year-old is the best at being a 16-year-old. They know the challenges that they face, and they know the skills that they need. They really kind of understand what life to be a 16-year-old is really like. So we need to be engaging with young people and empowering them to be part of the kind of key conversations, and actively engage with young talent, like offering them opportunities to really lead, innovate, like influence the change, because young people are the next generation. They're
Yeah, yeah.
20% of our society, but they are 100% of its future. And we really do need to engage with them to make sure that we're having that kind of sustainable growth, and that we're bringing in policies, and we're bringing in kind of changes that actually reflect the needs of young people.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, so that's a plus for that then. And then we talked then about, I mean, you're quite right about the fallout from apprenticeships is terrible. But
Yes.
and I think two of the things you've talked around about makes some sense. One is actually getting into the schools, because we see a lot of people who are doing apprentices who perhaps shouldn't have started the apprenticeship in the first place,
Yes.
and actually getting a better awareness about the industry into before people start those apprenticeships would be good
Yes.
news. And then actually the support and getting them into, making sure they're properly catered for in their businesses
Yes.
is also crucial.
Yeah.
Do you see travel and transport as a major challenge for young people? Because 16-year-olds without transport is a challenge for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was a key challenge for me. I think when I started the industry, I was 16. So often sites that can be in the middle of nowhere, they can be kind of somewhere that might not be always accessible. And that was something that I really kind of had to overcome. I was 16, I couldn't drive.
Mhm.
The closest train station was at least an hour a walk for me. So I had to
Yeah,
rely a lot on kind of my family to be able to get
yeah,
me
yeah.
to work and get me to the closest train station. So it is a big kind of issue within the industry, and I think it's not just construction; it's in general. But a lot of young people also at a young age don't really want to move away from home yet. I didn't want to move away from home yet, and a lot of the big opportunities aren't always kind of in people's hometowns. I know I looked on, we always say that kind of we want more apprentices. Apprenticeships are great, we want more apprentices. But on results day, I actually looked at 15 different local towns, and there wasn't a single apprenticeship available in that town within 30 miles. So actually the opportunities aren't there when young people need it, and they're not in
Yeah.
their local area. I still travel 45 minutes in the car now to get to work. So that it is a big challenge for young people, and I'm not really sure how we overcome that, other than supporting and really understanding young people's needs and having that open communication from the very beginning. Is it actually the best to take an apprentice at 16 who lives 45 minutes away? Probably not. Probably 17 when they've got a car, maybe. I think it's looking at the realities of kind of each individual situation.
Yeah, I mean that's quite a challenge, because part of the benefits of the apprenticeship is a standardized approach, which keeps everybody's costs and keeps everybody's the processes we run through
Yeah.
relatively stable. And Willmott Dixon is a much larger business than I've ever been involved in, but it probably might be that I haven't got a job within less than 45 minutes of your home,
Yes,
and I can
absolutely.
see
Yeah.
it's waiting till they've got a job close to you is a challenge. And
Yes.
part of the challenge, one of the issues I have within our industry is that our churn rate, the rate that people come and go from
Yeah.
businesses, is far too high
Yeah.
to support consistent teams. And
Yes.
you've got that, we have to find a way, I agree, of working out how we can get that transport issues sorted out to maintain the consistency of teams.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really a real issue. Right, we've had a great canter through, I'm going to let you have the last word with sort of the top three messages you might put through to the industry. You know, we hope there'll be a number of industry leaders who might be listening in. What would you like to tell them or ask of them?
I think my first one would be invest in people and not just projects. The success of any construction project relies on the people delivering it.
Yeah,
So we do really need to prioritize that training and mentorship, career development. And a well supported and engaged workforce, I think, is a more productive one. It's one that is likely to stay in the industry more long term. So by investing in people, we do ensure a more stronger and resilient workforce that we can adapt to future challenges. So I think that's my first one. And then I'd say foster diversity and inclusion. The
yeah,
construction industry has historically struggled with the inclusivity, and companies have the responsibility to really lead that change and creating workplaces where everyone feels valued and supported, regardless of kind of their gender, background, experience. It then really allows kind of companies to tap into a broader pool of talent. And a diverse workforce is great. It brings fresh perspectives, ideas,
mm, yeah,
innovation. There's so many benefits to it.
yeah,
And then we've mentioned this throughout, but engaging with the next generation of leaders. The future of the construction industry depends on the next generation of leaders. The industry has to engage with this young talent. They have to offer them opportunities to lead and influence change, and that can be done through apprenticeships and trainee programs and things like that. But really allowing them to take responsibility earlier in their career to really drive that leadership and allow young people to retain the top talent. And yeah, I think that's my three key
that's the three.
messages.
Well, Riley, I think I can understand now why you're winning all these awards. I think
Thank you.
three very well described and very succinct and very important topics you've raised there. And we could probably spend another 40 minutes talking about each one, but
Yes.
I'm not going to leave it there. I'm going to let you get back to work.
Thank
But
you.
Riley, it's been a really enjoyable discussion around about bringing young people into the sector and some of the challenges you face. I'm still gobsmacked about the degree of hate that you've received about justifiably winning these awards.
Yeah.
But I wish you every success. I don't think you're going to need a lot of luck. I think you're going to make it on full merit. But thank you very much for your time today, and look forward to seeing your rise in the future.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all.